So being 17 years old and having been searching for the truth for about a year and a half, 2 good years, about a year and a half, I'll give it good credit, about a year and a half, really hard searching, I became very frustrated. I became very angry with God at a sense that, I'm looking for you and you're not doing any effort here. And that was my prayer. I'm looking for you and I'm not seeing any reverse effort on this end, I felt as though I was in a room with all the lights off. In every doorway, there was about 50,000 doors in the room, and I knew one of them took me out of here, but the lights were off, and the only way I was going to know was be able to read the signs on the door, And I was trying to feel my way through this foolishness to find the right door, and I really got frustrated, And I'm asking God, why don't you just turn on the light for me, please? Just let me out of this foolishness. So needless to say that at the age of 17, when you don't have anywhere else to go, there's a lot of friends that can show you a lot of places to go, trust me. So I needless to say, I got into the worldly life, as they call it, the street life. And I'm a perfectionist at heart. Anything I do, I want to be the best at it. If I was a Christian, I wanted to be the best. If I wanted to be a Bible scholar, I was determined to be the best. So when I decided to get into the street life, for sure no one was going to outdo me. So I went from one way to extremely the other way really quick. I was getting into trouble, getting kicked out of school. I got expelled. I had to go to night school. I was getting arrested. All these things were happening to me at the age of 17. And my grandmother she was bewildered at all of this. She had no idea what had happened to me. And she was always there telling me, what happened to you? And I would tell her, that I'm tired of looking for God. I know He's there, but He doesn't care about me. I must not be that important if I'm looking for Him and He's not looking for me. So I said, I don't want to hear that. I'm leaving. And I would be out of the house. And I stayed out of the house all the time. Because at that time I had a license, could do what I wanted to do. There was 2 incidents that changed all of that. The first incident, I got into a car accident wherein me and my friend were doing about 60 miles an hour on Interstate 385 on our way back from Clemson University. And just so happened that I got accepted into Clemson University on a baseball scholarship and got kicked out a month and a half later because I got arrested for a fight. So this is what that life was doing to me. And so anyway, I was still going to Clemson because all my friends were going, and we were on our way back from Clemson from a party. And it just so happened that night that we were really tired, and I never wore my seatbelt. It was just something I didn't do. And that night I just happened to tell my friend, we're tired, I'm going to sleep. I don't know if you're going to go to sleep, so let's put our seatbelt on. If we run off into the ravine, at least we have our seatbelts on. So we did that, and we did run off into the ravine. Needless to say, we flipped the car about 6.5, 7 times. They say, like who's counting? It was flipped quite a bit of times. And at the end, one half of the car, the back end of the car was on one side of the street, and the other half was the other. The car broke completely in half. And I was awoken by the accident, which the road coming at you at about 60 miles an hour in your face will tend to do that. And after the accident, I didn't even know what to think. I didn't know what happened. I didn't know if I was dead, alive, out-of-body experience. I didn't know. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that I need to get out of this car because I remember movies, cars flip, they roll, they blow up. So let me get out of this car. So I got out of the car, and I pulled my friend out, and he had 2 broken ankles. Not really broken ankles. He had a broken leg and a broken ankle. And I had a piece of glass sticking out of my arm, which I still have a scar to prove it, but it was nothing. I pulled the glass out, wrapped it up in my T-shirt. It was not a big deal. I got out on the sidewalk and started counting body parts, because I looked at the car and figured that there has to be something missing, something broken, gash, something. There was nothing wrong with me other than this gash, and, I was discombobulated, and my friend had broken legs, and he was on the ground moaning. And it just so happened, at that time, there was a police officer traveling the other way. He saw the accident, turned around, came back, and I was standing on the edge of the road trying to find my cell phone in all my pockets while my friend was maybe 10, 15 feet down the road in the ditch. The officer pulled over, got out of the car. I guess he didn't notice that there was not another car parked on the side of the road, but he got out and he asked me, he said, "Did you see the accident?" He came up to me, he said, "Did you see the accident? Did you see what happened? Do you know where the people?" And I looked at him, and I said, I was in the accident, you know, that's my friend's car. And when I said that, it was almost, you know, how they, you know, people talk about, you know, seeing the blood drain out of somebody's face. I saw blood drain out. I saw him go from regular color to white. And he looked at me and he said that after seeing that wreck, because he saw the whole wreck, it happened in front of him, coming towards him, and it went across the road in front of him. He said, I've already called the coroner just in case. He said, these are wrecks when we come to, we immediately call the coroner just in case. Because these people don't live through that type of wreck. You know, he said, do you see this? One part of the car? I said, yeah, I see it. I was in it. And he looked at me, and he must have been a very religious man, because he looked at me and he said, I want you to know, and after that I told him my friend was down there, and he got my friend, and he said, before you go to the hospital, I want you to remember this. He said, I want you to remember that God is real and that you're here for a reason. He said, you're here for a reason, and you better realize what that reason is. He said, I don't know it, but you better figure it out, because God doesn't keep people around like this unless they have a purpose later on in life. So he said, you have a reason. You need to figure it out. And then we got an ambulance and went to the hospital and all that good stuff. Needless to say, that wasn't the only thing that woke me up, because I continued on doing what I was doing, and just figured that, you know, that was, a battle scar, a notch on my belt. You know, I lived through a life-harrowing experience. About a month after that, I traveled to New York with a friend of mine, and I'm drawing quite close into my story, I hope. I traveled to New York with a friend of mine, and I left the hotel room. It happened to be the same friend, and two other friends. I left the hotel room to go to the ATM, and anyone who's been to New York knows most of the ATMs, you have these little glass rooms that you have to go in. And I think now they're a little safer. When you go in the glass room, it might lock behind you, or no one else can follow you in. I don't know if they haven't changed that or not. If not, it seems ridiculous, because people will actually wait outside for someone to go into those ATMs to follow them in after they get the money and rob them. Because where are you going to run? You're in a glass room. It just seems like, it seems like a big trap. So I went in and I withdrew my little $60. And as I was walking out, a guy came in behind me. And apparently, he was so in need of this money, he was so strung out or whatever on drugs, and that he was not willing to take the chance of me not giving him that money. He was not going to take the chance of me running away, not giving him money, fighting him, and somebody noticing him, because he pulled the gun, pointed it in my face, and pulled the trigger. He didn't say a word. He didn't ask anything. He didn't say anything. He put the gun in my face, which by the look of the gun, I would say it was probably a .357, because it was huge. But of course, maybe just because there's a gun in your face, all of them might look huge. But this one looked really big. It looked like a cannon. And he pulled the trigger, and it was a revolver, because I remember distinctly, I can pull it back as if I was seeing it now. I remember seeing the little cylinder revolve, and I heard the click, because it revolves one way and then goes back, and then the hammer hits it. I remember distinctly, and that sound in my mind is putting goosebumps on me. I remember that distinct click. And then I remember his eyes getting big, because nothing happened. Nothing happened. I don't know if there was not a bullet, or if he was so drugged up that he didn't know the gun was not loaded, or there was a bad bullet. But after that, he started trying to pull the trigger again. And before he even had a chance to do that, I had, because of my martial arts experience, alhamdulillah, thanks to God, I have overcome what's called fight or flight syndrome. I was shocked by the fact of a gun in my face, but I also do know how to react to that very quickly. I'm a Krav Maga trained instructor, which, that's the first thing you work on is fight or flight syndrome. So immediately I bum rushed him and smashed him against the glass. I cracked all the glass that was at the door and shoved him through the door, and ran. I ran back to the hotel room. Didn't want to call the police, because I was not supposed to be in New York by myself. But needless to say, I went back to the hotel room and started thinking to myself that, that I got to get it together. This is crazy. I got to get it together. So I went back home and I sat down and told my grandmother what happened. And she looked at me and, she told me, she said, the police officer was right when he told you, that you have a purpose.